Hi, and welcome to Music and Gear. Today we have another unboxing. It is a budget guitar, but this budget guitar is from a name brand company. Most of the budget guitars that we do here are from Amazon, or let's just say it's a budget brand of a higher name brand like Gibson, be the Epiphone, or Squier, Fender. This particular manufacturer really doesn't have a budget brand that they rebadge their guitars under. So let's open this box up and actually see what we ordered. And opening it up, we can see that the styrofoam neck brace piece was not glued in the box. It's just set in there. I don't see any glue residue from where it was glued. And the side pieces here have taken a pretty good beating during the shipping process. There is a silica gel pack in the box though. On the headstock up here with the rubber band, looks like we have a tremolo bar and 2 Allen keys. And again, with my favorite part. I really like this part because you get to see the headstock first. Yep, it's a Peavey. And believe it or not, I'm kind of shocked at the color because I was thinking we ordered the black one. But this one is definitely cream, or they sent me the wrong guitar. Either way, this guitar is here, so we're reviewing it. And here they've done the wax paper over the strings. And there's the fingerboard. It's a sharp looking guitar. This pickup configuration is very workhorse oriented. With a humbucker single, you can pretty much get any sound out of it. That's why I kind of picked this guitar. I figured it would be a good budget guitar that you can get a lot of different tones out of. Just looking at it real quickly, it's a sharp looking guitar. I like the color. Alright, like we do every guitar on the channel, we're going to go through this guitar with a fine-tooth comb. We're going to check the electronics, we're going to check the neck, we're going to check the frets, we're going to check the first fretted note, we're going to look at the output of the pickups, and then of course the overall general fit and finish on the guitar. Let's see what $200 from Peavey Electronics Corporation gets you. Alright, I now have the guitar on top of our little stool here. And the first thing we're going to look at is the finish on the guitar. This is like an antique white cream. It is a high gloss finish. And it is polished very well. It's very smooth. If we look at the guitar in the light, we're looking for a seam in the wood where the body was glued up. When the material contracts and expands, sometimes it'll leave a ghost line in the finish, and that's what I'm looking for. And and I do not see one on the top of the guitar. And on the bottom of the guitar in the light, it looks good as well. So the finishing was done very well. The edge of the guitar does have a round over on it. And this round over looks about like a 3/8 of an inch round over. And it comes around. And right here we have an arm carve. And the round over at this corner going into the arm carve gets a little smaller, goes into about a 1/4 inch round over here. And then they've eased it back into the 3/8 on this side. The angle cut on the arm carve is eased into the top of the guitar. So there's not a transition line here. They've done a lot of sanding to eliminate that ramp angle. Going around our 3/8, it feels smooth. I don't feel any missteps in the routering. This is a Strat style body, but if you look at it, the horns here are a little pointier than a Strat. They're not quite as rounded off. It's nice. The inside feels nice and smooth. I don't feel any step down marks on the side of the guitar. It's done well. It's very smooth. On the back of the guitar, we have a tummy carve. In this chamfer here, I can see a ridge going across the guitar. Now they have eased that into the flat of the body, but it's not as eased as the top of the guitar. Again, they have a 3/8 round over, but here going around the neck plate, this is only 1/8 of an inch, maybe even a 1/16. It's just, the edge is just broken. And from here to here, they go from the 1/16 or 1/8 to the 3/8. So they've blended that contour in. And again, right here, this round over gets a little sharper, about a 1/4 inch. And then blends back to the 3/8. And it feels nice. I don't feel any missteps. Since we're on the back of the guitar, the tremolo cavity here, this cover plate is set on top of the guitar. So they did not do an extra route and set the plate in flush. It is setting on top of the guitar. Our neck plate here does have the black nylon gasket, then the chrome plate, then the 4 screws. And it feels smooth. And there is no angled chamfer or anything done right here. This plate is flush and even to the back of the guitar. So they haven't done a chamfer here to decrease the size of this area. It is all flat and true. On the other end of the guitar, let's look at our pick guard here. Let's make sure that it's sitting flat on the guitar. It's not bouncing. It feels nice. I don't feel it bouncing, so it is setting flat and true to the body. The screws all appear to be down, tight, and even. This one is setting just slightly askewed. That's the only one. Our route on the pick guard it feels smooth. Our route around the neck on the pick guard. Looks good too. It's cut tight. There's no gap. And it goes under the fretboard on the last fret. Our single coil routes in our pick guard is quite tight. It's a really tight fit. There's less than a 64th of an inch gap on this one and this one. Our humbucker, though, does have a little bit more playroom. The humbucker appears to be setting forward in the routed hole. It's about 3/32 of an inch gap in the back and about a 32nd of an inch gap in the front. The side gap looks to be about a 1/16 on both sides. The pickups themselves setting in the guitar, the humbucker is setting true to the body. It is, the top of the humbucker is parallel to the body. The two single coils are setting slightly forward in the guitar. So they are skewed forward just a little bit. The route in the pick guard following the bridge, it is parallel to the bridge. The issue I'm seeing is it's a very squared off route right here around the bridge. It really doesn't matter, it's more of an aesthetic issue. But if you look at the distance in the route to the bridge and then look at the rounded corners of the bridge, the offset isn't continuous. The route radius in the pick guard is sharper than the radius on the bridge. And that doesn't cause a problem, it's just an aesthetic thing. I like it when the offset's exactly the same and it's a nice crisp, even line all the way around. The offset is the same as far as being parallel to each side. It's the offset in the radius that is incorrect. The radius in the pick guard is actually sharper than the radius on the bridge. So it looks a little strange to me. Last thing, we do have a 4-ply pick guard. It goes white, black, white, and then this last top coat, this marbleized finish. And that particular piece is the thinnest section. The marbleized section looks like it's only maybe a 64th of an inch thick. And your other passes, we're going to call them a 32nd. This pick guard looks like it's a little over a 1/16 of an inch. 3/32. So that's a pretty thick pick guard. Now let's look at our switch. If you like a springy switch, one that snaps when you tap it, you're probably not going to like the switch. It does have a spring at the very end of the throw, but that's it. It's not a switch that you can tap and it'll just bounce into the next position. That being said, it does feel solid in each position. So it's not a switch that if you bump, it's going to knock it out of that position easily. Side to side playing the switch. There's a little bit of movement, but it's not bad. It's a very solid feeling switch. Our volume pot feels smooth. Just by turning it, I can tell if you're a pinky player, and yes, my pinky is sliding on the knob and the knob isn't always turning. So if you like to reach down with your pinky and turn the volume, it may take a little bit of effort to turn the volume. It is firm, but it is smooth. Our tone control feels the same. It's very firm, but it is smooth. And neither the tone or the volume, neither one of them are rubbing the pick guard. They feel nice. Now let's take a look at our bridge here. And the bridge has a really nice chrome finish to it. This is a nice bridge. The finish on the bridge, you can look at the bridge and you can see that it's a nice bridge. I don't feel any of the screws on the top of the saddles. There's nothing sharp. The saddles themselves have been eased and well polished. The bridge back lip, everything has been eased. There's no sharp corners. The screws on the back are also very smooth. That's nice. I am seeing something though. If you look at those saddles, look at the high E saddle and the B saddle. This guitar has not had a setup. On the low E, it starts to go up, and then it dips down, and then at the B saddle, it starts to go back up and then to the E saddle. So they were just sat in there, strung, and put in the box. And just feeling the strings, you can feel not so much the B, but you can definitely feel that the high E string is set high compared to the B. So the radius set on this bridge is nowhere near the radius of the neck. It hasn't been set. Now let's take a look at our neck. Our neck is maple. It is not roasted. It does feel smooth. And this is a satin finish on the neck. And it is very smooth. The transition here going to our headstock feels smooth as well. Now on the back of the headstock, I can feel just a little bit of grit and a little bit of the grain. So it does have just a little bit of a raised grain feel. It's not bad, but I do feel it. The side or the end of the headstock on the side here all feels smooth. That all feels smooth. The top part of the headstock, now I can feel the Peavey logo. And we have a little detail right here. It looks like they've cut into the headstock just a little bit and done a chamfer, like a little chamfer detail. I don't know if you can see that or not. I do feel some grit there, so it's not sanded perfectly smooth. It's not as smooth as this area and all the other areas. So there's a little grit feel right here. Coming off our headstock back into the neck, our nut is cut even and flush to the side of the neck of the guitar. It's nicely set. Now let's go over the frets. Let's just say the frets are sharp. Yes, those are scratches on my fingers. It is very sharp. These frets have not had any side dressing whatsoever. That being said, I do feel a couple frets that are sticking, protruding out past the side of the neck. Now, some people would say that's fret sprout. But being that these frets have had absolutely no side dressing, I am going to go out and say that when they put the tool on the neck and they sanded the side of the fret for the chamfer, they didn't even sand the side of the frets enough to get them even to the neck. Because I feel some up here as well. So all these frets need to be chamfered and set and filed into the neck. They're very sharp. Looking at the top of the frets, really not seeing any scratches from the fret leveling. I am seeing just a few marks going like this through the frets. And feeling the string on the frets, it actually feels pretty good. So there's two ways we can look at this. The frets were leveled and they sanded them pretty decently, even though they did absolutely no dressing on the end of the frets at all. Or, like another guitar we had on the channel, they could have sanded the radius and the neck, pressed the frets right into the guitar, and never leveled them. We'll know when we put the straight edge on the neck and go through this neck with a fret rocker. I do see some marks on them, so I'm going to assume at this point that the frets were leveled and then cleaned up after the leveling process. The wood between the frets, again, has the same satin finish as the back of the neck. We do have placement dots on the fretboard, and we have placement dots across the top of the neck right here. This is a two-piece maple neck. I can see the seam where they applied the maple cap to the neck. Since there is no skunk stripe, we know that's how they installed the truss rod. Now let's look at our neck pocket. Our gap here is consistent. I'd say about a 1/64 of an inch from here all the way across. It's very consistent. Looking at our gap here, again, it's less than a 1/64, so it's pretty tight. Looking at our set on the neck to the body, I'm seeing something here that I don't know if the camera will pick up on. Look at where the neck goes into the guitar, right here. There's a crack, right where my finger's running. And then follow that crack back to the back. The crack gets smaller. So I can look between the body and the neck right here through that, and I can see the paint of this horn. So when this neck was attached, I think the screws caught the neck, they tightened the screws down, and some of that thread is caught in the body and did not turn and allow the neck to go in tight to the body. I think the screw pushed the neck off the body a little bit, and when it became tight to the plate, there was a gap. It's either that or there's some kind of spot in the neck pocket preventing the neck from going tight. This may be a guitar that we have to take the neck off and actually look at that pocket. And because there is definitely something going on in the neck pocket. I can literally see light from here all the way to here looking this way into the neck pocket. So it is not setting tight in the pocket of the body of the guitar. The tuning keys, I did look at this earlier. Peeled one of the little plastic pieces off. They are unbranded tuners, so they do not say Peavey. They're just an unbranded generic tuner. We also have 2 string trees on the neck. And then looking at our horns for our strap, this one looks like it's setting that way to the horn just a little bit. And that's all subject to opinion. But it is tight on the guitar. Our other horn for our strap, and these are the bugle type. Looking at it, let's see if it looks like it's in the center. It does appear to be in the center of the guitar. And it is tight. And I would say that these are probably a medium size. They're definitely not a large or a jumbo. I think that's going to wrap it up for our fit and finish. Now let's get our gauges out and let's check how straight the neck is, and let's check how well the frets were leveled. Alright, now we're going to check the neck. I have my gauge here, and just playing with the guitar, I'm going to assume it's a 25.5. And that's what it is. Let's set the guitar up. And the neck on this guitar to the wood of the fretboard there is zero relief. It is perfectly straight from the factory. And the guitar is in tune to 440. Here's our favorite thing to do, fret rockering. And you know what we're going to do. I'm going to go into squirrel mode as I check these frets. I'll go out of squirrel mode if I find a bad fret. And right there's our first one. There is a little bit of rock right there. And again right there. And it's good in the center. So at the high E and B. And right there. Now this spot here is just barely moving. But if I shift the front rocker There's a little more right there. And again, slight there. So it looks like half of this fret. And just a little bit right there. It is rocking. And it's just in that one little spot right there, dead center, right in between the two strings. And right there. This is the first one that I would say has rock that I would be concerned about. This fret right here. And again right there in the center. And it's good there. So dead center, this fret. And right there as well. So most of this fret, dead center, 4 center strings. So I think that's either 4 or 5 locations. Not the greatest. But none of those were really horrible. This spot here, that spot is questionable. If you really lowered the action on this guitar, that spot would give you problems. I've seen that amount of rock, when you lower the string action, it's going to give you some issues. The spots up here, I don't think you'd have a problem with. I'm pointing out the fret rocker was rocking on those frets. So let's take our StewMac action gauge and let's see what the factory set this guitar at. Our low E string the string is exactly on the 0.110 line. So it's set high. Our high E looks to be at 0.095. And we already talked about this saddle being high. So let's look at our B on the 12th. And the B is at 0.070. Yeah, there's quite a bit of difference between the B and the E. So that's more proof that the saddles were never adjusted. All right, now we're gonna take some gauges. We're gonna check the radius on the neck. I've picked 2. I have picked my 12 and my 14. And we're gonna start with the 12. And the 12 is touching on either end of the fretboard, and I see a little bit of a crack in the center. So let's check it up at the top. at the top, it actually doesn't look too bad. I see just a little bit of a crack in the center. It's pretty close. Let's take our 14. And the 14 fits good here. It's consistent all the way across. And the 14 looks much better at the top. There's just a little bit of a crack on the 12. The 14 is fitting much better. So we're going to call this a 14-inch radius. It does not seem to have a compound. Next, we're going to get some widths on the neck. Let's start up here at our nut. And at the nut, we have exactly 43 millimeters. Then at our 12th, we have exactly 52 millimeters. And then let's check it at the 22nd fret. And at the 22nd, we have 56, probably 56.1. Now let's get some thicknesses. And I'm going to loosen the first 3 strings so we can get the calibers in. Okay, I'm going to check it right at our first fret. And at the first fret, from the wood of the fretboard to the bottom of the neck, we have exactly 22 millimeters. Now let's check it to the top of the fret. To the top of the fret, it's reading exactly 23 millimeters. Let's check down here at the 12th. And it's right at 25 millimeters from the top of the wood fretboard to the bottom of the neck. And let's double check the fret to the top of the fret. And it's reading 26 millimeters. So these frets really aren't that tall. And like I've said before, you can be off 0.25 I'm going to venture to say that these frets are probably 1.25 millimeters. That's going to be a pretty good guess. Now let's get some weight, and let's also check the output of these pickups. Alright, I now have the multimeter plugged into the output jack of the guitar. We are in the bridge position. Our volume is all the way up, and our tone is all the way up. In the bridge position, we're reading 10.84. Humbucker in the first single coil, we're reading 2.73. Just the single coil in the center is reading 3.60. Center single coil and the next single coil is reading 1.8. And our top single coil is reading 3.53. Alright, I now have the guitar and our scale on the bench. I have the scale zeroed out and we're on grams. In grams, it looks like we're reading 3,266. And in pound ounces, 7 pounds, 3.2 ounces. Alright, I've repositioned the guitar up on the bench here. And I want to save the strings on the guitar. We also need to look at the electronics. And since this pick guard goes under the fretboard, and we do have a 6-screw tremolo, it's very difficult to get these out. Earlier in the video, we said we were going to take the neck off the guitar. So I think I can do two things here. We can loosen the strings, remove the neck, look at the neck pocket, and while we have the neck off the guitar, we'll have access to the electronics cavity. So let me go into squirrel mode and I'll loosen the strings. Then I'll flip the guitar over and we'll remove the neck on the guitar. Alright, I now have the screws loose. So we're going to take the screws out of the neck and take the neck off the body. And looking at our neck pocket here, we can definitely see some issues. We can see that the body was drilled and the actual screws going into the neck did not follow the pre-drill in the body. Let's take a look at the actual neck itself. And we see on the neck a misdrill right here. These are things that you really don't want to see. Especially on a brand new guitar. And there is a raised section in the neck right here. A lot of that's from when you pre-drill this hole and you run the screw through it, it still expands the glue fibers. So you need to run the screw through, then come back and shave this to eliminate these humps. I'm going to go ahead and take the screws the rest of the way out back here. That way we can get the body to set flat. And I am orienting the screws the way they came out of the guitar. Now let's see what hidden treasures are underneath this cover plate. And again, we can see that this guitar was misdrilled at the factory. This is not something that you want to see. Okay, we're going to spin the guitar this way a little bit, just so the strings don't get in our way. There we go. Now I'm going to go back in squirrel mode and I'm going to remove the screws off the pick guard so we can get in and look at these electronics. Alrighty, I have all the screws out. So now we're going to lift the electronics out of the guitar. And we have a very tight fit. A very, very tight fit. So I'm going to set that back like that. We're going to try to get it into this camera. We can see our springs here are oriented correctly on the single coils. The humbucker spring is not tapered. Looking at our solder joints the best we can, they don't look horrible. There's a nice sheen on the solder joints. See if we can flip it around this way and get a better view maybe from this direction. And we can see there. There we go. A little bit of playroom. All those look pretty good. Even the switch places here. The iron was definitely at temperature. And our last item would be our jack. And I'll be right back. I need to go get the right size screwdriver. Now let's look at our jack. And again, we can see that they did not take the wire and run it through the hole and bond it on both sides. That is not a very nice looking joint right there. Our ground is the same way. It's very skimpy on the solder. And two, they've laid the wire this way on the edge and then soldered it. That is, well, I'm just going to say that's really unacceptable. This joint is just unacceptable. That's a failure that's going to happen in the future. But that's how the guitar was sent to me. And that's what this channel's about. And you can see the way they have it here. When that 1/4 inch plug is going to come through here, all this wire is bundled up in there. So that's going to cause an issue. When I reassemble it, I'm going to pull the slack into the cavity. Okay, I'm going to go back into squirrel mode and we're going to put this guitar back together. Okay, I have the high E put back on the guitar. Even in squirrel mode, I'm pretty sure you saw how difficult that was. It did slip out, but I do have it reinstalled, and I've reinstalled the low E as well. The reason I'm doing that is I want to get the neck centered back into the body. So what we need to do is we need to look at the distance between the E string and the edge of the neck and the E string low E to the edge of the neck, and make sure that we have the neck setting in the pocket correctly. It looks like it needs to roll that way just a little bit. So pull. Again, I'm going to look at the strings and make sure the neck isn't sitting this way or that way. and that looks good. We have also corrected our gap issue here. So now I'm going to put a little tension back on the neck and retune it. Okay, I now have the guitar up on my stool, and I've moved the cameras around, and I've got the guitar set up to check the first fretted note and the intonation. I just literally finished reassembling the guitar. Earlier in the video, we talked about the bridge saddles never being set. I have taken my radius gauge and roughly set the saddles on the guitar. I have set the E string to 0.06 and the high E to 0.05 at the 12th. So now let's check our intonation and our first fretted note. We're going to start on a low E. And there's our E, first fretted note. Open, first fretted note. And you can see that the low E is sharp. First fretted note. Open. First fretted note. And it is sharp as well. There's our A. A on the 12th. Open. A on the 12th. And it is sharp as well. Open. First fretted note. That one is very good. Open. First fretted note. There's our D. Tune it a little bit here. D on the 12th. And just a fraction sharp. Open. Let's tune that just a little bit more. There we go. D on the 12th. Open. 12th. That one's pretty good. Open. First fretted note. Again, pretty good. There's our G. G on the 12th. Again, pretty good. Just a little bit flat, I think. Open. First fretted note. And it is sharp. Open. First fretted note. There's our B. Tune it a little bit. B on the 12th. Open. B on the 12th. Again, pretty good. First fretted note. And the B is good. It's very close. There's our E, our high E. E on the 12th. And just a little flat. Open. 12th. Yes, it's just a little flat. Open. First fretted note. Open. It's falling off a little bit. Let's tune it. Let's try our 12th again. Yes, it is flat. Just a little flat. There's our open. Let's do our first fretted note. And just a fraction flat. But that's really what you want. You want your intonation and stuff just to be a fraction flat. Flat is more pleasing to the ear than the note being sharp. All in all, it's pretty good, except the low E and the A. I think those were the worst ones. Yeah, the G's not too good on the first fretted note. So it looks like our G and our low E are the culprits as far as our nut. But the intonation isn't horrible. It is set sharp. And I see a lot of guitars from the factory set on the sharp side. Okay, I now have the guitar plugged into my ART rack mount preamp. It is running into a Pro Valve 6L6 power amp and then into 4 greenback Celestion drivers. I am in the bridge position. The tone is all the way up and the volume is all the way up. We are on a clean channel. Move up to our second position, which is our humbucker and our first single coil. Now we're moving up to our center position, which is just our single coil in the center. Up to our fifth position, which is both of our single coils. our last position, which is our single coil up in our neck position. Okay, we're going to do the exact same thing. I'm down in the bridge position. Both tone and volume are still all the way up. But I'm adding my TS9 Ibanez tube screamer. It's just a little bit of great gain. I'm at probably 15% gain. So just adding a little crunch. Up to our second position, single coil and humbucker at the bridge. To our center position, which is just our center single coil. To our fourth position, which is both of our single coils. And our last position, which is our single coil up next to our neck. Okay, we're just going to do a little bit of blend stuff, a little bit of lead, a little bit of rhythm. Up to our second position. To our center position. to our fourth position. And then our last position. Okay, that's going to conclude our demo section on the Peavey. I'm going to look at the headstock because I've already forgotten the name. This is a Raptor Plus. We did find some issues taking this guitar apart. We found that the neck and the body is misdrilled. That's bad. The programming on the body, the CNC machine drills 4 holes, and those holes do not align to the back plate. So when they went to set the neck, they had to drill new holes through the body and then into the neck. There are 5 holes in the neck. So 1 hole in the neck was misdrilled, and that screw is right next to that other hole, so that weakens the strength of that 1 screw. Not only did we find that the body was misdrilled and one of the holes in the neck is wrong, but the neck was not seated into the body of the guitar properly. That's a pretty big problem. The next issue we found were these frets. They are unbelievably sharp. I'm actually going to say that this is the worst guitar that I've reviewed on the channel to date. This one beats the Ibanez that we had on the channel about 7 months ago. These frets are awful on the side. They didn't even chamfer the fret down even to the neck. And there's absolutely 0 dressing on the edge of the frets. We also found about 5 locations on the neck, 5 frets with multiple locations on those frets where the frets weren't leveled properly. That's not good. Don't think I went over it in the review section, but these tuners are very notchy and they just don't feel smooth. They feel cheap. Granted, it is a budget guitar, but these tuners just have a very cheap feel to them. As far as the finish and the paintwork on the guitar, it's very nice. The bridge is very nice. The finish work on the back of the neck is nice. They just built this guitar to a price point because it's Peavey, and they missed. This guitar needs more time, more physical, human time put into the neck of this guitar. I think it could be a good guitar. This guitar cost me $169, and I'm going to compare it to other guitars we've had on the channel at that price point. That would be the Valgoa TN2 and both Groats, the GR Standard S and GR Standard T. Out of those 3 guitars, they're all better than this one. Anyway, if you bought one of these Peaveys and you had a completely different experience with it, You got one and it came flawless. You had absolutely no problems. Leave some comments down below on the Peavey that you picked up. If you got one and had similar issues to the one that I received, yep, leave some comments. This channel is about helping other people that are thinking about purchasing this instrument. So the more people that post and relay their experience that they had with this guitar, the better the other people will know, well, can I accept the issues with that guitar for that price point? If you haven't already, please smash the like button and consider subscribing. When I see the subscriber count go up, it makes me feel good. It lets me know that I'm doing the reviews that you all want to see. Anyway, thank you for clicking on the video.